thank you to our guest speakers, Mr. Anton Kobakov, head of the EBRD Pristina office, and Ms. Leonora Kusari. She's the manager of the SME support team. Okay, first we'll have a presentation by the guest speakers. They will make a presentation on themselves first, and then we'll continue with their presentations. Thank you again, and let's start.
Good afternoon, but probably good morning still to everybody here. It's a big pleasure to be with you, to present our activities, our bank, what we're doing in general, and what we're doing here in Kosovo. My name is Anton. I'm the head of the local resident office of EBRD in Pristina. I spent here 4 years, the last 4 years, so I'm reasonably familiar with the country, with the market. Before that, I spent 3 years in the resident office in Sofia when I was a banker. I was working in the power sector and in the general industry sector. And prior to joining the EBRD, I spent almost 10 years with different commercial banks working in the area of project finance. So the finance of infrastructure projects. Next to me is Leonora, who is the head of our SME advisory teams, the so-called small business support team. Leonora, probably you say
yes. Hi. I started working with EBRD with the small business support since March 2005. Before that, I used to work in the private sector, usually with international companies. I was manager of Coca-Cola once they started operations in Kosovo, with Nestle, and used to work with European Commission before. So 10 years now I'm working with EBRD in the same department, small business support.
Okay, we'll start with presentations, but before that, let me just motivate you to listen as carefully as possible, because they will also discuss in details about the program, their programs, the EBRD programs, and I think some of you might even benefit from these programs, because they focus, among others, on private sector support, SME support. So, and they also have a SME support program with special focus on females. We've got a lot of females here. So females, please listen carefully. You might benefit. Thanks a lot, and let's start with presentations.
Okay, we'll ready to do the presentations from there.
You have the
No, it doesn't work.
So I'm going to watch the slides. I think we're foreseeing a Q&A session at the end of our presentation, but obviously if you feel a pressing need to jump in with a question on a particular slide, don't hesitate, just raise your hand, we're happy to answer. So, where is the here?
Projector.
Over there? All right. So, yeah, one of the first slides. Okay, good. So, so what is the EBRD? I will spend probably some 5-10 minutes on describing what is the banking in general. We are a development bank. So we are in the same family like World Bank, Islamic Development Bank, African Development Bank, and so forth. These are all development banks that usually provide specific finance for projects that are dedicated to the economic development of the countries So they are different from commercial banks in the sense that their goals are different. They are aiming not really to, they are not working for profit specifically, but they are working, they have a specific mandate which is really to promote economic development in the countries. And the difference between EBRD and the other development banks is that EBRD was created in 1991 with a specific mandate to support the transition of the former communist countries into fully fledged market economies. So from economies that were dealing with centralized planning to economies that are fully exposed to market forces, so to competition. So we are very much promoting competition, healthy competition, and we are very much promoting economic development by that is really driven by the anchor to the market development. And so the usual we were supporting, it depends on the stage of different countries, but we were supporting countries from the size like Russia, from Poland to the Southeastern Europe, Bulgaria, Romania. These are different countries in different stages of development after the fall of the communism in the entire region. But the process of transition to the market is usually the same. First, the banking market is, a commercial banking market is created, so the establishment of a banking system, the upgrade of the infrastructure, so the upgrade of road transport infrastructure, and then follows the private sector development. So, of course, in many of those places you have big enterprises operating from the previous century that were due to be privatized and that were privatized, some of them. Non-viable enterprises were closed. We were supporting all these areas. So we were supporting really the infrastructure investments in some of the countries. We were supporting the creation of the banking markets by providing equity to banks, by providing credit lines to banks. And we were supporting also the privatization. So all these were big volume projects. So we are a relatively small bank by number of people. We are 2,000 people altogether. But we were dealing mostly with the high volume projects. We are in some of the regions where we operate, like Southeastern Europe, specifically here in the Western Balkans, so not only Kosovo, but also in places like Macedonia, Montenegro, Albania, and now we moved last year, not last year, but 2 years ago, we moved also to these to places like Morocco, Tunisia, Jordan, and Egypt. All these places are characterized by different structure of the market, very different from the one that was in our previous region, so our legacy region, we called it in 1991. So there are no huge enterprises that are due to be privatized. The private sector is relatively small. Infrastructure needs are very big. So our support to these countries is taking a little different shape. And one particularity is that we are focusing more and more on supporting SMEs. So in addition to the high volume privatization, high volume support to infrastructure projects, we're also providing low volume, small size support to local entrepreneurs in these places. So I will go through the slides if they're working. Probably to understand how we are organized. We have, like a usual development bank, we have shareholders that are countries. So every country that is benefiting from EBRD finance is a shareholder also. So Kosovo is also a shareholder in EBRD. But of course we have more shareholders than the countries that we operate. Also OECD countries are among the shareholders, among the most important shareholders in EBRD. We have like altogether 63, I think, shareholders, of which 2 are institutional shareholders. This is the EIB and the European Union, and the remainder are countries. These shareholders obviously cannot manage the bank altogether directly. So it's not the case that you can really produce decisions on any project by 63 representatives. So this is why the shareholders are usually represented by one governor that they elect, usually the Minister of Finance of the respective country. And further, on a project level, the decision-making is delegated to the board of directors. And each director represents one or several countries. If one director represents several countries, it's called constituency. So every director represents a constituency. So for example, Kosovo is in a constituency with Denmark, Ireland, and Lithuania. And is represented by, I think right now, by the Irish director. Okay. This is the so-called board of directors, but of course on an operating level, this is the bank is working on preparing the projects that need to be approved by the board of directors. And in the banking, we have several departments, big departments. One is obviously the banking department, which is where the bankers are working, preparing the projects for finance. We are assessing the viability of a project. Mostly if this project really makes financial sense, if it's ready to be financed. So if the financials are healthy, if the business plan really makes sense, if the company is well positioned to invest in this project and so forth. We have obviously different stages of approval. Approvals are usually internal by our credit risk department, so very much similar to a normal commercial bank operations. But we also have economists that are checking every project for compliance with our mandate, whether it's really promoting the transition or it's simply a financial project that does make really developmental sense. And we also have compliance checked by our compliance department, much more rigorous than usual commercial compliance departments, because our projects are usually highly visible and they need to produce really positive, they need to produce really this positive, not only impression, but the positive result of inspiring the people in the economy. Obviously, if we invest into somebody's company who is, I don't know, either corrupt or criminal, this is not producing positive effect, and it's obviously damaging our reputation. We have an evaluation department who is evaluating our projects afterwards, whether they completed their goals. Okay. Okay, I think these are the objectives that I just listed. So we can move to the next slide. We are really very, very conservative bank in terms of investment, much more conservative probably than the usual commercial bank. And so we are not very leveraged. It means that we have a very solid equity base, and so we are rated AAA by Standard & Poor's, and we have the highest rating also with the other credit agencies. We are rated hence higher than many of the European countries right now. And this is necessary because we are investing in very risky environments, very risky countries. So if something goes wrong with those countries, as we can see now in a few countries like Ukraine, for example, Russia, for example, we need to have really robust financial structure to sustain these shocks. Our balance sheet is not very high. We have approximately 40 billion of assets. This is actually not really much if you consider that, for example, UniCredit has almost $500 billion, Raiffeisen almost $500 billion. KfW also has a very much bigger balance sheet than ours. But our strength is that we are really focused on very highly visible, big volume projects and programs also. So for example, the SME program is high volume, it's dedicated to small companies, but it's a high volume program.
So in terms of impact, is much more visible than our balance sheet would suggest. We invest in almost every sector. We have certain sectors that we are not allowed to support, like cigarettes, military equipment, and so forth. So these are logical sectors, hard alcohol and so forth. But any other sector, municipal infrastructure, transport infrastructure, and any kind of corporate activity we're supporting. Yeah, we're investing in 34 countries. So apart from the former socialist countries, Turkey came along, and these North African countries, South and Eastern Mediterranean countries came along. Cyprus also came along with last year. And Greece, by the way, we're starting investing in Greece. Okay, we can move forward to the next slide. What kind of finance do we provide? We are doing really depends on the sector. So, for example, in the power sector, power generation, and the infrastructure sector, we're doing project finance. So really high volume projects that are relatively complex. Down to normal corporate loans to companies, to private companies. But we are also allowed to invest in equity, which means we are allowed to take share capital in companies if we want to be partners with somebody in a business. Just to tell you, the people that are working in our bank have very different profiles. You saw that we have really many different departments. So we have economists, we have developmental specialists, we have advisory specialists, and obviously we have also bankers that are coming from the commercial banks usually. Okay, our difference, another difference between us and some of the other banks is that we are also present in every country. We have a resident office in every country that we operate in. In some countries we have several resident offices, like in Turkey we have 3, we have 7 in Russia, we have 1 in Kosovo still. But this makes really a big difference. These offices are usually hiring local people, and these people have huge knowledge of the market. They have access to the companies. They know where to find the best opportunities for us to do our business. Okay, now what are we doing in Kosovo? We've been working for quite a while already. I came here in 2011. The office was open in 2008 officially. We were doing also some small investments from a distance without an office before that. But since we opened in 2008, we did private projects only here in Kosovo. We financed the Kosovo factory, the Albi shopping mall. We financed the dairy factory of the Vodi back then. And then in 2012, these were all private sector operations, so we were not working with the public sector before that. In 2012, Kosovo officially became a member in EBRD and became a shareholder there. So officially, Kosovo became a country of operations, and we started investing in public sector projects. You probably know already from the news more or less what we are doing. We guarantee the deposit insurance fund of Kosovo, so we're providing a deposit insurance. We supported the deposit insurance guarantee for the deposits in the banks here, we provided, last year we signed for 30 million to the Kosovo Transmission Company, and we are working this year for a rehabilitation project on the railway line from Pristina to the Macedonian border, and we have a number of other infrastructure initiatives. In parallel to this, we're working on the private sector side and supporting the SMEs. Apart from this visible project that you know, we also provided a loan to a pharmaceutical company, a pharmaceutical distribution company. I need to make this clarification. Pharmaceutical distribution company, Asketo, and yeah, we are running also projects with local banks. So we're providing loans to local banks that are distributed to small companies. And these are different programs. These are energy efficiency programs, women in business programs, or pure SME. And the difference is that we usually are allowed to manage grants by external donors, for example, the European Union or any other country. And we're combining this donor money with our banking finance that is really following a commercial logic. So the usual scheme is if you go to the bank and you take a loan for energy efficiency or the women in business project, and you implement your project, you're allowed to obtain a grant. So this is on our side. We have still a relatively small balance sheet here in Kosovo, like 36 million altogether. But this is growing. We think this year there's a good chance to be the record year for our investments in Kosovo, for the money that we commit. We are increasingly focusing on SME support here. We're working really on a cooperation with external donors, not only for banking companies, for banking program, but also for our advisory program here in Kosovo. We combine advisory and finance. We provide loan to a company, but we also provide advisory for their strategic management, for business plan, for improving the financial management. And our advisory unit, the small business support unit, is probably the most active in our network. So at this stage I would probably give word to Leonora, who will explain more about our advisory operations.
What we have seen in those 10 years is that financing is not enough for the companies to overcome the challenges that they face. So they need advice and know-how in order to grow and prosper. So what we do is, as of 2005, what we do as a small business support is offering advice and know-how to the companies through engagement of local consultants and international experts. How we do this, I will tell you in the simple words. As a team, we go to the company, talk with the management of the company about their strengths, about their weakness, and about their obstacles. We define together the priorities, so if it's whether it's improving market performance, or improving organizational structure, or accessing the finance. We define what are the project needs, and then we match them with at least 3 consultants with whom they negotiate the offer and the scope of the services and what the product will be. And we co-finance 50% of the total net cost. But this is not all what we do. We also care about the quality of the product, of the project that consultant is performing. So we monitor the project, both from the client and the consultant. Consultant needs to report to us timely according to the project. And this is because we want the company to ensure the client that they will get the product that they wanted in the time and what they in the specification that they want. But it's not only this what we do. After 1 year, we go to measure whether the objective that we set in the first, when we assess the business, we look if the objective has been achieved, and that we go after 1 year and we perform sort of performance evaluation according to the objectives that we set. I will tell you also about the results later on. Sorry, just We are a program of the EBRD, but we are not financed by EBRD, we are financed by the donors. So far we had European Commission, Netherlands government, and now we are having this special shareholder fund as a main donor on implementation for this year. Usually yearly we assist over 70 companies from the different fields, starting from the management, financial information system, ISO standards, different ones, and whatever needs for the advice a company might need. So saying this, the program is tailored to the specific needs of the company, so we are in demand side, we are not offering, so whatever the company needs, whatever advice, or being local or international consultant, we only do a matching and monitoring the quality. So this is what we do as a department. Why companies need advice and what kind of? In order companies to remain competitive, they need to not only in the local market, but also in the regional and international. We see this also from the daily basis with the companies, is that they need to bring innovation, or innovation not just in terms of developing something that doesn't exist, but also changing the way they produce the product, the way they market the product, the way. And then we have the companies that go from the micro to medium, or medium to small. That means that they changed in terms of numbers and the number of employees and number of operations. So they need also kind of reorganization of the company. Then they need, of course, once they go export, they need to have relevant standards, starting from quality management, the basic one, ISO 9001. And then they need also security information system, which is relevant to IT sector, this food safety management, or even the certification of the product as a whole. So, and again, we have also companies, we see also when we go to the companies, it's different when it's a micro company and they have a single product where they know the profitability, or they know where to sell. But when they have a wide range of products, let's say 20, we usually go there and they do not know about the profitability of the product, of specific product. So what we do is through the local consultant or even international one, if this expertise doesn't exist here, we provide the financial management information system or even product management system. So this is why we do this. It's that we want to empower the private sector, and we want them to create a competitive advantage towards their competitors, because as you know, there are not only local producers, but we face also huge import also from the regional countries. So in order for them to remain or even to enlarge the business, they need to change the way they operate and the way they think. As you can see here, so far we have assisted over 580 companies, and this every year changes. So as I said, yearly we have 70 companies that we assist. We used donor money so far 7 million, and we engaged local consultants 128, only local consultants, and like 50 other international experts. According, as I said, we measure the objectives and the performance of the companies 1 year later. And if you see this data, I don't know if you see from the back, it's 89% of our clients increased turnover in average of 46%. 3% of them reported that they have increased employment, and these are 893 jobs just for these 3 years. 78% of them increased productivity, and 8% of them in total amount of 22.7 million, they obtained financing, not only from EBRD, but also from different, either being donors or being commercial banks that we are in partner of. And if you see, also what is important, also maybe for your interest, is that 57% of those companies, they have a gender or youth issue. So those are either companies that employ a lot of youth and women, or they are owned by young entrepreneur or woman managed, it's woman managed company. And we care about also our donors. So every penny of the donors is also, if you see the translation on 22.7 million, that means that we multiplied for 3 times their investment in our companies. Another important angle is that we want also to build local consultancy capacities here in Kosovo. So our aim is, in terms of sustainability, if it's that our goal is to have a solid and sustainable local consultancy market in any field of services, and beside that we help them on attracting clients, on preparing the projects and delivering what the client wants. We also provide trainings for them. So for young people that they might be interested for entering in the consultancy sector, we have a training on how to start a consulting business. This is a 3-day training. This year we will have the training in Kosovo. This is a 3-day training where you will learn more what it's needed to be in consultancy sector. And according to what we had from the previous trainings, is that out of 20, only 10 decided to go in the consultancy. So consultancy is not so easy job, but this is a very good training to see if you are for consultancy sector, or you can go as a junior consultant initially in consulting company and then move independent later on. Another one we have also there are other types of training. So these trainings are done in accordance to the needs of the consultants. So for this year, because every year we perform also annual consultant review. That means that we measure in what stage the consultancy sector is in Kosovo, what they need, or what can we do further in order to develop further the sector. So in this year we will have a project management training, and we will have how to start a consulting business. The project management training, probably also American University has a such training, but this is not project management as a whole, but this is only for how to manage the projects from the consultant's perspective. So this is not PMP, but it's project management for consulting business. So this is what I said before. This is only one example of the company that we performed the evaluation 2 months ago. Donor Kosovo, it's a meat processing company which does donor meat, donor now also kebabs, but used to do also only meat, which is situated in Lausha. When we discussed with the company, the management of the company had huge problems on, they lacked the hygiene, they lacked measuring the critical points of the production, they lacked also this inspection data and quality measurement of the products produced. So what we did with them was introducing food safety management standards. We engaged a local consultant to perform such service. The company has been certified with ISO 22000 after 9 months, because this needs extra efforts on training the staff and creating the working procedures, working instruction, measuring the quality of the products produced, etc. And after 1 year, company, besides doing only meat processing, they started doing also doner kebab in 3 different flavors, and they started exporting in Germany. And they received a grant from EU to improve the facilities, production facilities. So as a result, we had not only quality improvement in the company, but they doubled also sales, and now they are more competitive, because I think that they are the largest producer of such products, and they started also exporting to Germany, which is not a small thing. What we do, because I see also, these are my contact details, so you are welcome to contact me anytime. I would like also to just to inform you, because I see also women here. So we are starting this month a woman in business program, which is combined. We have 2 instruments, advice and financing. We have signed with the TAP Bank a 3 million loan for not only for existing female-owned and managed businesses, but also for those young girls that want to start a business. So we will offer not only this tailored advice, individual advice, but we will offer also coaching, mentoring, and training for women in business, being startup or existing business. So any of you that have an idea or already started a business, please let me know. I will be happy to help you develop further. Thank you.
Thank you, Anton, and thank you, Leonora. Just a brief wrap-up of the presentations. The EBRD has been here since 2008. However, Kosovo has officially become a member of the EBRD in 2012, and that meant that in addition to supporting the private sector, as of 2012, the EBRD has been supporting also public projects, the public sector, focusing on infrastructure, focusing on the water supply system, railways, energy efficiency, and other areas. But what's very important for all of you today is that if you have an existing business or a startup, especially women in this auditorium, I would actually encourage you to go and meet with Leonora. Please set an appointment, and she will most probably give you all the details of the program, and she will also explain how the EBRD SME support program for women in business can help you advance your business or turn your idea into a good business. And as you've seen from the other examples shown today, the business with doner meat and kebab, you might even become an exporter. And yes, there are several female businesses supported by the EBRD that have started exporting to other countries. So we'll now start with a question and answer session. You're welcome for questions, please.
No, just whoever.
I think Edison was first, and then Ajuni.
Okay.
Just please specify whom you want to answer your question.
It can be either for you or for Mrs. Kusari. Maybe it's for you particularly, since you mentioned that some of the goals of EBRD are to make the transition from an ex-socialist economy to the market economy. And one of the goals there mentioned was also that you support privatization. However, the market itself and privatization even less guarantees or ensures that there will be development. What is, as Joseph Stiglitz puts it, the invisible hand has become too invisible to act. So what is the criteria that EBRD has, or what are the mechanisms that EBRD use to ensure that these projects are really going to develop, or going to make development in the society in which they operate?
Okay. We are supporting indeed the transition to working as to working markets in societies that are on their way to become democratic. Commitment to democracy, to the principle of democracy, is one of the key criteria to for a country to become a country of operation, recipient of EBRD money. This being said, we cannot guarantee, obviously, the economic development in one or another direction. We're just applying principles to support projects that are really could serve as good visible examples for healthy, sustainable development. Probably to visual, and we're providing obviously also finance to projects in the public sector that should create conditions for the private sector. So the investments in the public sector are not our specific goals, but they are really should promote the development of the private sector. We are not providing mass finance to the private sector also. We are not replacing the banking sector. We are just providing dedicated finance to selected projects where we think that these projects could become really visible examples. So to say national champions, ideally we finance a national champion. Ideally this company is becoming so successful from really out of pure out of business, not really by using connections, by using unfair practices and so forth. And this example is really used as leading example for other entrepreneurs in the market who can see, okay, even in this country I can do something. How do we ensure that these are the right projects? We are obviously have relatively selective approach to the market. In Kosovo we are financing, like I would say 1, 2, in the best case 3 private projects per year. When we are really organizing the finance for these projects, it's a relatively complicated process. It is we are really imposing conditions to the company, like introduce corporate governance principles, like introduce environmental and social action into their company. So to introduce, to elevate the standards, environmental and social standards in the company, so they become really in line with the best world practices. We are obviously asking the companies, wherever they have been informal in their reporting standards, to become more and more formal until they are fully formal, to produce financial statements that are understandable and that are official. Obviously, we have also other
conditionalities in particular to their specific departments if these are not really following best practices in these areas. Sometimes we provide also help to elevate the standards by sending consultants with the help of our small business support. So this is the recipe. It doesn't guarantee you really that you will become, or any other country will become a very, very developed country in 10 years or 20 years or 5 years. But it's sending signals. In parallel to this, we are trying to lead dialogue with the decision makers in the country, with the governments, with various councils, chambers, to promote our view on what should be done to improve the conditions for the private sector. So if we see that, for example, Kosovo has specific issues in the business environment, like widespread corruption, for example, like a very high level of informality, like administration, lack of capacity of the administration, and so forth, we're trying to address these. So we're constantly providing these messages from our management, me personally when I meet with the people, but also we have very frequently our high management coming here, like managing directors, president was here in 2013. These people usually talk this language in the meetings with their officials.
I have two questions. One is for Mr. Kobakov and the other one for Ms. Kusari. The first one is about the operation system of your bank. I mean, what decides the voting power in your bank? We saw the shareholders graph, and is that similar to IMF, for example? A member which has a higher quota has more voting power, and also what determines how much you will invest in a country, how much financially you will help a certain country, like Kosovo, for example. And the other one is for Ms. Kusari, that is about what makes you decide that you will support a certain company, and do you provide help for the startup businesses, because we see that we have a high percentage of small startup businesses failing, and also do you help these businesses promote to promote the domestic products in the regional market, because that is a really big factor when it comes to our negative trade balance.
Okay, I will answer with starting with the decision making. You caught me a wrong leg for it. It's because it's a complicated procedure. The voting is not really very straightforward, but it has both elements. So your vote counts as one vote out of the 64 that we have right now, but also the voting power obviously has impact. And I remember on the case of membership of Kosovo, it was the two criteria were relevant, but I could now really not recollect exactly how much of the voting power and how much of the votings exactly were needed for Kosovo to become a member. I think it was half of the votes and 75% or 63% of the voting power. So it's a combination, depends on the decision that needs to be made. On the project's approval, for example, on a project level, it is only a number of votes. It's not a voting power. So strategic decisions probably is voting power and number of votes, but on project level, so to approve a finance for the project, this is number of votes. The only complication there is that if certain countries object to a particular project, they may have a veto. Like one straightforward case is when the country where the project needs to be implemented is against this project, obviously this will be a no-go, even if all the other countries will be for the project. It's usually not very often, I can't remember a single case, but this is the process. On decision how much will be invested in a particular country, the only relevant criteria as a capacity for the capacity of the bank is really the impact on portfolio.
I don't know whether you have in the program the portfolio management theory that will explain you why usually the banks diversify across many projects. But it's really, it depends on the weight of the country's exposure to the country, to the portfolio of EBRD. This is on what we can invest. So to give you an example, on Kosovo, in theory, we could invest up to 1 billion and still be okay in terms of portfolio impact in the bank. So we would be allowed to do so. And the stress tests on the portfolio would allow us to invest up to 1 billion here. This is the one factor. The second factor, obviously, is the demand for a project, whether this particular country can absorb the finance that we are offering to the country. And this is a bit of a different issue. So if we're talking in the private sector in Kosovo, obviously 1 billion cannot be absorbed here. We would be happy if we could really find somebody to take up 100 million here. On the public sector, the demand is limited by the fiscal space in the country, so by the capacity of the local public budget to pay the interest and the principal of the loan that we will be providing. So there are fiscal limitations to this. So these are more or less the factors.
As I said before, we are 10 years now here, and I think I'm confident that we have a market knowledge and we can see the trends, which companies have a potential to grow. So what determines where we want to, or whom we want to assist, it's when we see the potential, if there is a potential to grow or this company has a product that has saturated in the market, then we can do nothing. Another very important thing is that we have offices in every country, and especially in Balkan we have all around. So we have the same office in Albania, Macedonia, Serbia, and Montenegro. If you think about this, how we can connect companies with the in the region. So we have also market knowledge there, because we have a common management information system where we see any company and any consultant. So if we have a company that is interested to export to Albania, we can easily, either I can contact my colleague, or I can see in the system which is the company that we can match. So we do also this kind of things. So we don't, as I said before, we don't only engage local consultants or international experts, but we can do also a sort of small advice, free advice also to the companies that can approach me or my team. Another thing is, of course, that we didn't work so far with the startups. So not because that we didn't want, but we didn't have an experience. So we are very much experienced in dealing with micro, small and medium companies, but not with startups. So Women in Business is a good tool also for us, because as you know, the Woman in Business is going to be the most difficult program. And we are very much looking forward to see how successful we will be on that. So if we succeed with startups with women, then we can easily switch to youth and anyone who wants to start the business. So for now, for this year, and probably also next year, we will only focus on startups with women that want to own or manage the business.
Adriana? You have to speak up.
Yes, I have a question for Ms. Kusari. We saw in one slide the statistics about how the advice is helping these small businesses. I have two questions. First, about the productivity. How did the businesses measure the increase in productivity? And second, did these statistics adhere to value or projected value?
The first one, how we measure the productivity. When we do a business assessment, we gather all information, not only what we see in the ground at the business on the site, but we gather also financial information and all important figures, and so these are quantitative and qualitative data. And what we do is then we go again after 1 year and ask the same questions that we did. So how we measure the productivity is we measure the turnover divided by the number of workers. So this is how we increase the productivity. But it's not, of course, it's not only our input, but especially on this improvement of quality management and part of improving the organizational structure, productivity is one of the objectives. So this is coming from those fields of assistance. Of course, in terms of potential for growth, it's not our projections. Sometimes that's why we engage. For example, if the company, we see that the products they cannot sell to the retail chains or to any shop, then we do a market study or customer study and see why this product is not functioning, or what company needs to improve in order to have this product sold. So it's not only our projections. Projections are done with the management of the company. But sometimes we know just, we can say we have examples in this sector, they have failed, don't go in that. So, because we have experienced that we are not 100% successful, so we have also failures. And we learn these are lessons learned also for us, but we want also to share this with the company. So if we know that this didn't function in the region or also in Kosovo, because it's almost the same market, then we say don't go there. Invest in something, let's see another opportunities. And this we do by engaging consultants.
Other questions? Victor, no questions today?
Actually, I have one question.
Sorry?
I have just one question for Ms. Kusari. Regarding the women that are selected in your programs, are there priorities for women that come from poorer backgrounds, that have lower income or lower education, or you just select them on the basis of the feasibility of their business?
What we would like to see is, because there are many donor organizations that support the agriculture, primary agriculture, and this food processing. What I would like to see, it's more, especially for startups, I would like to see women coming from with different ideas in different sectors. So not only in textile and agribusiness, which is, I think, that the most common, and these beauty salons, which are, I think, 80%. So what we would like and wish to work with more, focusing more time, it's coming from different, being consultants, because we lack also women consultants, so this is a major problem. Only out of 128, only 3 women consultants are in this database. So I would like to see more women in consulting sector. I would like to see more women in engineering or also in processing some other things than agriculture and beauty salons. So please, if somebody has good ideas, I'm looking forward. I will spend much more time on this, because I would like to see, because I think that women here in Kosovo have a power to do something different than on these 3 traditional sectors.
You have another question?
My name is Erkan, thank you for your speeches. My question is, do you provide them with the equipment or only consulting to the young startups? Because everyone and needs a startup or needs equipment for their customers want to start?
As I said, we have signed with Temp Bank a loan of 3 million euros, which is going to be dedicated for both startup and existing business of women. Of course, the product is not ready yet. I will inform Rika once we have certain criteria, what will be the interest rate and maturity, etc. So, beside the soft financing, this will be a soft financing, but of course that will have a final decision which will be the criteria, and so we will provide both advice and finance. But finance will be used for equipment, and we will address any obstacles that women will face. So in the part of the advice, we will co-finance, because usually the average is 50%. But in this, we will co-finance more than that, 70% of the soft skills or advisory service. And if the company will get also financing, because we will help also accessing a TAP bank, then we can support also 90% of the cost of the advice. So once we have the criteria, so this that's why we combine both. So financing for equipment and other things for we can subsidize from our department.
Is this fund only for projects proposed by females, or can also male? I don't mind it because we can tell our girlfriends.
But you need to be cautious on that, because she will own the company and she will own the assets. So be careful on that when you propose her, because we want to see not only registered businesses by women, but we want really to be those that manage the company. So you take the risk if you want to propose or not.
Thank you for the presentation. I want to know, are women with not as much collateral, could they apply for loans or support by EBRD? Because we know in Kosovo a lot of women lack collateral. That's one. And the second question is, has there been any support to renewable energy sources?
This is why we did this program of combining advice and finance. So there were 3 components. This is the problem was also the collateral. So we will fix this with the TAP bank. So if the woman will not have collateral, then the assets that she will buy, this will be held as a collateral. So it's not the criteria having collateral in the first place. Why we did this program, there were 3 things. First, that women didn't have access to the banks, or only, I don't know, it's a small number, only 3% of total portfolio of the bank, it's provision of the credit lines to women. Then the problem was women face also lack of access in information. They rarely go to any fair. They rarely visit the websites of the donors, and etc. So that's why we are doing also this advice. And they hardly go to the supply chain, retail chain, to speak with the manager to sell the product. So that's why we combine having these problems with access of finance and access in the market information. We are doing a program with the combination, both advice and finance. Renewable.
We financed one small hydro power plant in the Decans area in the mountains. It was a rehabilitation of one turbine and adding of another turbine, so increasing the capacity there. But this is on a direct finance on our side. The energy efficiency and renewable energy credit line, that is a program that we're doing together with the TED Bank, they should be providing some finance for renewable energy. I cannot tell exact numbers, how many, but not many really. So for the moment, really not much. The reasons behind this is that you frankly don't have huge resources here on the hydro side and on the wind side and on the solar side actually. So we have done a number of studies here for this renewable potential in Kosovo, and from what we know, the hydro capacity is approximately 100 megawatt, and it's dispersed across various locations, small locations in the country. The wind potential, unfortunately, is also not very high. It's not like because Kosovo is a landlocked country and it also has a mountainous terrain in parts of it, so it's a limited potential. Solar radiation is not extremely high, so also solar would not be able to provide a replacement for conventional energy. So all in all, we can say that there is some renewable potential, but it's really across many small locations. It can be developed by private entrepreneurs with small projects. So it should be a private company, small private company going there and developing this. We are not yet there. There are licenses by private companies that have been acquired for this purpose, but many local companies simply don't have the knowledge how to do it, or the financial capacity to support these projects. So this is on the renewable side. I need to be open. We would like to do more on the renewable side in Kosovo, but simply the country's topography doesn't give a very big advantage here.
Where can I find that a renewable potential study that you have done?
Sorry?
Where can I access that study that you have done that shows the capacity that Kosovo has on renewable energy?
We haven't done a study on the renewable energy, on the capacity of renewable energy. We're working with other people's studies. We've worked with a KfW's study on the wind potential recently. We have done a different study that is related also to a wind potential, which is the investments that are needed in the power network in Kosovo to connect wind generation. So this is indirectly giving us an idea how much wind we can expect here. On the solar, I think we haven't done any study yet. Hydro, we're working with all the studies, but we can see it also from the licenses in the energy regulator, what exactly is the situation on the hydro side. There are not big rivers here.
Other questions?
I have a question, maybe it goes for both of you. European Central Bank has announced that it's using its operational policies to inject 1.1 trillion euro in the Eurozone to increase the employment and also the economic growth of the European countries. And based on that will affect almost the banking sector, which means that will affect also EBRD. And based on that, does that affect that the EBRD will increase its loan funds in Kosovo, also decreases interest rate and increase the project implementation within a year?
We are working right now with the European Commission to understand how are they planning to implement this plan for the 1.1 trillion that you have mentioned. Predominantly, this will be done with the European Investment Bank. It's not really with us, but we're also discussing with them way to cooperate. It will not dramatically change availability of finance. Already Kosovo has reasonably good access to finance. The problem is not really lack of money. There is plenty of money. The banks are sitting on piles of money.
The problem is that most of this money is needs to be invested in a way, in a productive way, and needs to be repaid at some point. And this is not safe. So it's the environment where you want to put the money that is really the problem, not the amount of the money that is available. What is the guarantee if you give money to a company in Kosovo that the money will be repaid? This is the key question. Is there an environment that is guaranteeing you that if the company doesn't want to repay, not that it doesn't care, but it doesn't want to repay, that you will have the legal possibilities to follow your money? These are the questions. Even if you have grant money, the grant donors, they don't want simply to throw money really just for nothing. They want it really to be in productive way, in productive investments that are producing economic development, not enriching people that buy cars with this. Same is valid for the interest rates, by the way. As probably just to mention this thing, the interest rates are a really reflection of how the banks feel about the environment. So if the environment is, if they think the environment is risky, they put higher interest rates. We have right now, I think, already 9 banking licenses in Kosovo, and the market is pretty competitive. You can go to one bank, another bank, third bank. You can really go shopping to 9 banks, so they are competitors. So the pricing mechanism should work in this market, and I can safely say that for companies that are assessed to have good credit that can repay, the conditions are relatively okay. But on the lower end of the market, all these factors really play a role. The uncertainty about your money.
Any other questions? We foresee the session of presentations and question and answers to start at 12 and finish at 1. We are 1:15 right now. If you have any additional questions, then we'll take another 3. If not, then we'll just end it here. No more questions. I hope you will, at least the women in this auditorium, again, please, I hope you contact Ms. Kusari on the Women in Business Support Program. You might benefit personally. And even you guys, all of you now, you can benefit from the program on developing the consultancy sector in Kosovo. You can benefit from different training programs and become a certified consultant. And then you can be hired by the EBRD in order to support businesses in preparing business plans